I'm at my local equestrian center walking one dog. My other dog is at the vet. I hate that. And I was listening to Esther Perel podcast, and I love her. I still have problems with mainstream psychology, I'm sorry. And listening to her reminded me of that. And I wanted to talk about the idea of living with low self-esteem, which is me, believe it or not. And it's really interesting because capitalism demands that you self-promote. And it's worse now than ever because of social media, that self-promotion is supposedly the key to success. And before I had to do that, so there were many years where I was a social activist with things like the Black Panthers and the Young Lords, Puerto Rican nationalist group, women's liberation, gay rights, the Stonewall riots, anti-war, etc. So I literally thought I'd be dead by the time I was 21. I was in so many armed conflicts and very challenging, shall we say, situations. And all I wanted to do was to save the planet and anybody who didn't have a voice. That's a whole discussion in and of itself. Like, how did I become like that? Part of it was the times, the late 60s, early 70s, the war in Vietnam, the invasion of Cambodia, the Kent state where white students got killed by National Guardsmen, and then of course the country went into an uproar because it was white students that got killed. And part of it is my family history as well. My mother was an activist, as was her grandmother, as was my grandfather. Anyway, all I was concerned about was being of service and being helpful, and then I thought I'd be dead. And then I wasn't. I was 22 and I wasn't dead. And that took me a couple of years to recover from that. And I ended up becoming a teacher, which my very psychic mother, though I didn't realize till years later that she was, had mentioned in an offhand way that maybe I should become a teacher. And she said that when I was probably in my 20s. And I just laughed and said, I hate the school system. I hate our educational system. There is no way I would ever become a teacher. What is it, Hoshi? Get it. Oh, it's a squirrel. It's chirping. So eventually, I got older and had done a lot of recovery work and became a professor. And now the idea was we had yearly reviews, we had performance evaluations, we had all sorts of recognitions, etc. And I learned that you kind of have to beat your chest in order to get promoted or recognized or build a career. I'm not sure what. And this was a horrible challenge for me. As a recovering, still codependent people pleaser, believe it or not, my first inclination is always to promote other people. And also my favorite thing to do is to be someone's helper instead of being out in the front. So I had to learn to posture of, I did this and I'm great and I'm wonderful. And it kind of made me like how people see horses. Horses are seen as these big, strong, powerful animals, but with few exceptions, I haven't met one yet, but I've heard about these exceptions. Horses are big bunnies. They are a bundle of reactive, highly sensitive prey animals in a giant body. So with all this posturing, people started treating me like I was this big, confident, often threatening, maybe overbearing, braggarts. I don't know what the hell they saw. And they would come after me with force. And oh my God, what a new skill set I needed to live life. Because in order to survive my job as a professor, I had to act like I know I'm good, and here's why I'm good, and here's why you need to recognize me, and I should get a raise, or I should keep my job. And then other people are like, God, what a disgusting, egomaniacal, crazy bitch. Now, not everybody, but a lot of people. And that really hurt. That was like, whoa, that's not who I am. And then on top of it, that when there's any kind of success, you become a target for many people who now want some of what you've got, or they want to bring you down, or they think that you think you're such hot stuff and they want to bring you down a notch or two. Or they now start sucking up to you because you're in a power position or you're successful, and they want to be on your team so you can help them. And suddenly you're not having regular relationships at work. It's now politics. Holy cow. Wow. Just so incredibly difficult for me to navigate all that. And I have to say I did it badly. One of the things I was hearing Esther Perel talk about, and this is a huge complaint of mine of mainstream psychology, at least if you're a codependent personality, which is the idea that you have to be accountable for your behavior. So if everything keeps going wrong, or there's a pattern, it must be you. Well, as a codependent, I typically took too much responsibility. When anything went wrong, my first reaction was, what was my part? What did I do wrong? Now, in a professional setting with vampires and piranhas and sharks, they will all jump on that, particularly bosses. Most bosses, I have two exceptions that I know of, but they jump on that and go, yeah, you did this wrong, when it was them, or it was the system, or it was just a bunch of circumstances. So in mainstream psychology, what I was taught was everything that went wrong was my fault. And yet I'm supposed to posture like I'm super successful and I have all these incredible, wonderful traits that make me successful. And then I had to learn to not take accountability, because that was abused. It was like, oh, good, then I'm going to dump everything that went wrong on you. The second part of this idea of, if it's happening over and over, it's a pattern, what's the common element? You. What mainstream psychology leaves out is what we could call our soul path, or what I call our life path, which is, let's say I'm here to learn about independence. And now there's going to be a pattern around that. Well, I came here to learn that. So I'm not doing anything wrong. This is exactly what needs to happen for me to learn about independence and leadership, for example. One of the things I love about the psychic world, we are eternal souls world, not New Age, is we can separate between this is a psychological problem, this is something that you need to work on, versus your path was going to get hard in this area for these many years. That's what's happening. And it's not your fault. It's just that you went from being in the mountains to now you're rock climbing. And the rock climbing is what's making it hard. You're not doing anything wrong. And that distinction saved my life, because when I had a challenging time, it was already in my life chart that this was what was happening. And because I knew that, I stopped blaming myself, stopped taking full responsibility for everything, and buckled down to the challenge. And I did that by making my world very, very, very small while I was living out those years of your rock climbing. And it really helped. If you live with low self-esteem, which I think I will die with it, what I used to do was fluctuate in political situations, where people were like at work, or even when I went public with the work I do now, I had all these people coming saying, I want your power, I want to be you. Like, whoa, yikes, what do I do with that? So I fluctuate between taking a posture of like, I know I'm good and this is what I'm good at and don't mess with me. Knees shaking, by the way, nausea, anxiety. Between that and hiding, those are like my two skills, neither of which are very, very good. And the good that comes out of that is learning to absolutely be my own best friend, to be able to stand with me, with myself, no matter what is happening, to stop taking responsibility for everything that was going wrong, and instead to have my first reaction to be, how am I doing? How do I regulate my nervous system? And then try to allow other threads of information from higher sources to come in and ride it out. But I will tell you, it's still massively hard for me. You're getting the back side of the equestrian center here, not very attractive. And no matter how much I studied and read books and practiced about low self-esteem, it's gotten better. But I think until the day I die, this is just something I'm going to live with. Or perhaps my spiritual dad, Walter, he knew he was going to die. This was just so wild. Because after he died, it turned out he had set up, he had paid bills like 6 months in advance for his wife. And he had arranged for someone to come and work at the house. They had a little meditation business. He had arranged for that. And he had written on the calendar the day he just died in the kitchen, just collapsed and died. He had written a red letter day, and he died. And someone told me that he made this like final epiphany. He got it, and then he died. And I think that might happen to me the day that I somehow come at peace, hi Hoshi, with this struggle with self-esteem and how to handle the politics of working in the 3D world. I think the day that somehow comes together, I might just die, be like the end of it. I think also with mainstream psychology, there's a little bit of this, if you just do the work, it gets better or solved. And I will say this, yes, if you do the work, it gets better, but it's kind of like you learn to live in the wheelchair and really make the wheelchair work. It doesn't necessarily mean you get rid of the wheelchair, meaning there are some things that I think we come here as core issues that we learn from our entire life. They will never go away. They will morph and change and evolve, and we will grow from that. But it stays with us forever because that's what we came here to work with. And I'm okay with that, by the way. Being a public figure of any kind, like being a teacher, I would say even being a social worker, being anything where you have to justify your performance, measure your performance. I think is put such undue pressure on us as people. And how do we develop accountability when you are someone who feels responsible for everything, which is adult children of alcoholics or adult children of dysfunctional families? Also my favorite 12-step program of all time is back in the day. It's changed in the last 10 years, so it's very different now. I'm not sure how that's working out. They've changed a lot of things. But how do you have accountability when you have someone who takes responsibility for things that aren't even their responsibility? And how do you have accountability when you have leadership or coworkers who are glad to stomp all over you in order to get ahead, because that's how you get ahead in the workplace? What a bunch of skills to learn, right? I guess I'm doing this particular little talk to really emphasize that unless you pick up on someone's energetic reality, you might be fooled. You know, people think I'm like the horse, you know, big and powerful, and, you know, you have to put a saddle on them and kick them, and et cetera, et cetera. But if you tune into the energy of the horse, you know it's a bunny. So I am very particular around who I can spend any time with, because I understand that's how I'm seen. But that's not who I am. So I am, I guess, ferociously passionate about teaching people to work more with the fields of energy, as well as left brain, cognitive, logical, and intuitive to some degree, things like psychology. If people can sense you, they will not buy the imagery. A horse has to appear strong because it's a prey animal. They have to behave certain ways in order to survive. But if you read their energy, they're really different than what you may first think. The more you develop this sensing of energy, if you are someone who attracts takers and people who want some of what you have, what they think you have, you need that energy sensing to protect yourself. So you can be friendly but keep your distance, because you know this person's agenda is crap, or maybe even vicious, or aggressive, or harmful, or competitive. Also, I want to have that energy sensing so I can really see other people, like really get them, not get their posturing, not get their circumstances, not get their protective cloaks that people have to wear. Like, we have to. We are in a time and a culture that is not tribal and communal and work together and service oriented. We're not in a Buddhist country. We're in a capitalist country. And maybe the whole world is going towards capitalism. So this is why I'm so passionate about the work I still do. And no matter how it appears, I constantly am having to keep my balance around the issues of self-esteem, power, leadership, and the politics of what people might want from me because of who they imagine I am, or what they imagine I can do in life, or what they imagine I can do for them. It's tough. People think success is the thing they want. You know, yeah, I want to be successful. If you check out the account Physiology First, which I love, and you also check out another account, Kill the Ego, which I love, there is a physiology to success that has to be developed, literally. Your nervous system has no idea how to react when life is working or when you feel safe. If you haven't had those experiences, if you are with someone or in a situation where you are finally accepted and recognized, supported, and feel safe, there is a 90% chance or more that you will you will have a panic attack, feel fear, anxiety, and in some cases I've seen people have breakdowns. It is a slow build to get into success. Your nervous system has to get used to it. Your neurobiology has to change. You literally have to grow neural pathways that grow and work and connect, like building muscles, neuroplasticity, where your brain goes, oh, this is a safe environment. Here's what we do in a safe environment, because we already know what to do in an unsafe environment. If you go into success too fast, it's a little bit like, I guess the best example I can think of is if somebody kidnapped you, blindfolded you, flew you over to, say, Korea, and dropped you down there. And now you're in a country where the alphabet is not the same, the food is moving, and people's behaviors are different, and you have absolutely no clue what to do. You don't even know if it's friendly or unfriendly. You don't even know what to eat. It's that disorienting, and this is why the stereotype of the Hollywood star who rises too fast and too quickly somehow accidentally commits suicide on prescription medications. Or this is how we see people who seem to be doing so well, and then we find out that they're really actually alcoholics, or they're on a ton of medication, or they're cutting themselves, or so many other things. Success takes skill. With success comes politics, more posturing, more more energy around blame and accountability. When you are in a political situation, I remember once in a faculty meeting, I said, I think I handled this class wrong. They're so difficult. It was a really weird population in this one class. It turned out every teacher had a problem with this class, not just me. But I said, I think I'm just doing this wrong. And then everybody jumped in. There was a big discussion, and this other teacher dragged me aside afterwards and said, you never admit in public that it's your fault or you've done something wrong. And I said, well, how are we supposed to learn from our mistakes if we don't share with each other? I mean, this was a faculty meeting, and yes, the dean was there, etc. But, isn't the whole point of the faculty meeting is how do we make everything better? And he said, yes, that's what they say, but you never admit, because they will then say, yes, it's your fault. And if we get rid of you, then it will be better. That's the politics of the workplace. Wow, that was a shock to me. So I learned to get feedback another way. What a drag, especially in the field of education, especially in the field of psychology. Don't you want a workplace where you can talk about what works and doesn't work so everybody can learn and grow, rather than having to constantly present as if you're successful and never admit to one single mistake? Wow. So if you're lusting after success, recognition, a career, I would say this to you: practice the culture as much as you can. Understand that you have to learn the culture of success. In fact, when I was a professor and I taught social psychology or sociology, one of the experiments I had students do, the ones who said, there was a lot of ghetto kids in the schools I was in because they were vocational schools. Oh, a squirrel. Okay. Get it, Hoshi. I would have them, I would talk to them about, you don't know how to hang out with rich people. You want to be rich, but you know how to hang out with ghetto, not rich people. And I'm not saying one's better than the other or one's worse than the other. It's just really, really different. So I would tell them, I want you to dress up and go somewhere really expensive, Beverly Hills or someplace in Irvine, wherever close to you where you live, and just buy a cup of coffee. Just go window shopping. Just hang out and see what that's like. In fact, in some the experiments, what we did is I asked students to go down dressed like they normally dressed and then go back to that same wealthy neighborhood dressed up. And sure enough, when they went down dressed like ghetto, the cops did a drive-by within minutes, literally. And when they went down dressed up, nothing bad happened, but then they had to figure out how to walk, how to carry themselves, to make meaningless conversation. I used to talk about, if you become as big an executive as you think you want to be, you're going to have to learn how to play golf, because that nonsense still goes on where the men play golf and discuss business. Or you're going to have to hang out and have a drink with somebody and discuss business, or smoke cigars together, etc. So that is true for all of us, not just if you're coming out of the ghetto, going to a vocational college, hoping to get a career field that's going to put you up in the upper middle class or above. We have to expose ourselves gently to learn not only the skills, but to develop the nervous system for it and see how it feels and how we respond and how we do self-care and how we problem solve and how we get support, or where we get support, because the higher you go, the harder it is to get support at work, because there's so much competition that's going on. I'm a work in progress. I will be to the day I die. And I think it also helps in that my compassion for people who are also a work in progress is right there. Because I've never made it. Because once you make it, guess what? There's a whole new set of problems. But a lot of people won't talk about that, because that's kind of the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that we sell in our culture, that when you make it, a lot of things get better, and there's so many things you don't have to worry about. And that is true. But there are also so many new things that you do have to learn, and you do have to worry about, and you do have to navigate. As always, a reminder, free introductory session. Go to my website, drmarie.org, drmarie.org. Also some online groups, place to practice, get feedback, get support, and learn your own way of problem solving. I don't sell a method. I want each person to find their own way of navigating this life. See you soon.